joining us now. Newt Gingrich is one of our favorites, of course, former Speaker of the House, advisor to the Trump campaign and transition. And he's with us now to analyze where we are here in this very busy news day on the Laura Ingraham Show. Speaker Gingrich, how are you? Good to talk to you.
I'm doing well. Isn't it amazing how much stuff's going on?
I love it. You know what it reminds me of, Newt? It reminds me of like when you're up at the plate. And when I used to play softball and played in high school and some in college, you're up at the plate and you got a pitcher who doesn't take a lot of time between pitches. Like, I like to get ready in the box. You have to step out of the box, but you can't step out of the box. If you're Congress or you're one of these pundits who doesn't know the Constitution, it's like, bing, 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 bing. Whoosh, here comes a slider. Here comes a knuckleball. Here comes a curveball. Then it's a fast pitch down the middle. Then he's brushing you back off the plate. And you just got to try to stay in the game here, but it's not easy.
No, it's amazing how much is going on, and I think Trump has done a particularly good job of just keeping everything underway so that it's very, very hard for the news media or the Democrats to sort of get resettled, and they're just continually facing these challenges.
Let's talk about the Yates firing last night. I heard from Joe DeGeneva a little while ago, Newt, I know you know Joe well. Joe said it was well known within the Justice Department that Yates was a problem long before she was picked to be the acting Attorney General. Let's listen.
Anybody who knew Sally Yates knew she was a political hack. And in fact, people were reporting to the administration last week that she was seeking to undermine the president's initiatives. And the reason she was fired so quickly was because people inside the department were reporting that she was being a recalcitrant. She was verbally saying things to the staff about not following the president's directive.
Someone made a mistake inside the landing team at Justice in selecting her to be in that position for 5 minutes, let alone several days, Newt.
Well, I think that's right. And I think, again, sometimes these things are going to happen, and particularly with the speed at which Trump moves. But his response is to shift gears and immediately correct it, which is what he did. And I thought he did exactly the right thing. And I thought that it was something which, people could say, this guy is in charge. He understands he's in charge. And she actually made a technical mistake. She would have been a hero to the left if she had resigned.
Right.
And said, I can't do this and it's inappropriate and I'm not going to do it. But the way she did it set him up to fire her, which made him a hero to his own base. So in a sense, she gave him an opportunity to prove how tough he was in a way that actually probably was a genuine opportunity for Trump to reassure the people who voted for him that he was going to stand up and he was going to do what he thought was necessary.
I also think this is good that this happened early on, Newt, in the administration. It's another warning sign for a lot of these young Trump folks that there are lots of problematic activists burrowed inside the bureaucracy of all the agencies at State Department. Tillerson's going to find out what a viper's nest that is. At the Education Department, where I used to work, I saw it firsthand all those years ago when Bill Bennett was Secretary of Education. Even in places like the Department of Transportation, there are political hacks, as Joe DeGeneva called her, burrowed in all of these departments. And it is very important that whoever is going to be the deputy secretaries of these departments goes through office by office to reorient how people's work assignments are doled out, what meetings they can get into, what authority they have. And otherwise, you're at war not only with the Democrats and the media, you're at war with your own departments. So they got to know that really, right off the bat here.
Well, you realize that of all the campaign contributions from federal bureaucrats, 95% went to Hillary. 99% of the State Department contributions went to Hillary. It's clear, and I think it's human nature. These folks really, really wanted her. They're really appalled by Trump in every way. And that sets up a situation where he's going to constantly face this kind of problem, and they'd better get used to it, and they better get used to solving it.
I heard you maybe it was yesterday, actually. Everything's blurring into one day, Newt. Talk about the communications aspect of these executive orders, how they're rolled out, how they're, if you will, produced. You could produce kind of a preface to these executive orders with the way you lay out facts and so forth. So what about that? How they rolled this thing out on a Friday night. Looks like Tillerson didn't know anything about it.
Well, there are two things. There are two or three things going on when you raise the question of who knew about it. The first thing is that Trump wants to do many, many things very, very fast, and that's his style. And he believes in drowning the system with sheer volume. The second is that the Trump is the opposite, and I just finished last night my 9th speech on the nature of Trump and Trumpism, 8 of them at Heritage and 1 at the National Defense University. They're all available at Gingrich Productions. And one of my points I made last night that really fits what happened this weekend is Trump doesn't believe in extensive, detailed planning to anticipate everything. He believes in moving, and then if a mistake is made, responding so rapidly that you fix the mistake before it does much damage. And that means he will have many more mistakes than an average president, but he'll fix them faster than the average president. And the net effect will be that he's moving forward. And then the last is partly, frankly, Chuck Schumer's fault. I mean, if the Democrats are determined to not go through the process of approving the cabinet and then approving the subcabinet and so forth, this government is going to be run by a very small number of people for a long time. And I think the Democrats were hoping that would slow Trump down. And, of course, he just has run over them and said, no, if this is all I got to deal with this week, I'm going to take these guys and do the best I can. And he's going to keep doing that because he has a general belief that momentum is really, really important, and that continuing to do this stuff gives him the ability to stay on offense, and that gradually that wears down the other side. And I think it's frankly, I think it's a pretty good theory, and I think he's executing it reasonably well.
The protest mentality on the left is, I think it's obvious what they're trying to do. They are trying to keep, whether it's the airports or major thoroughfares, major public spaces, filled with angry people, impassioned speeches, and so forth, to again capture the narrative from Trump and try to sow this idea that Trump is the one creating chaos and disorder. You're hearing this from some of the cable hosts as well, and not on Fox but on other networks. How was that? How will that play out, Newt? Where people are seeing all these airport protests, and you saw them starting with a women's march and then continuing.
Well, I think the first thing it's going to do is draw our attention to George Soros and the amount of money he's spending to finance this. I mean, as somebody said, I think it was on Fox and Friends this morning, you begin to wonder how come all these people don't have a job? Well, they do have a job. They're doing, they're protesters, and I think that Soros's model is to protest anything and everything, and to try to legitimize Trump. But what it's going to do is it creates basically Warren, Sanders, Soros begin to define the Democratic Party, and an Elizabeth Warren, George Soros left-wing party is going to end up like the loony left against Thatcher in 1987. I mean, these people have a set of values that are sort of nuts, and I think it's a fight we should be cheerful about taking on. And I think the Women's March is most famous for Madonna saying she dreamed of blowing up the White House. Well, that's probably not a rallying cry for most Americans.
We're talking to Newt Gingrich here on the Laura Ingraham Show. And Chuck Schumer went on the Senate floor last night and said this.
It was done in such a sloppy and careless way. Major agencies, the Border Patrol, Customs, didn't even know about it. There were major holes in how it was done. It almost seems like back of the envelope. So even for those who might be for this, I am certainly opposed. The slapdash way it was done was appalling and created the chaos.
So it wasn't on the Senate floor, excuse me. That was yesterday, earlier in the day. So he's both attacking the constitutionality of it on the Senate floor last night, and there he's saying, well, they're incompetent. That's the other meme they're trying to cement in the public's eye. This is just sheer incompetence.
But let me make 2 points about Chuck Schumer. The first is he's the guy who's blocking all of the cabinet officers getting approved so that Trump has the people to do the things Schumer's complaining aren't getting done, and they aren't getting done because of Schumer. So because they were hoping, the Democrats were hoping, if they blocked all this, it would slow down the administration, and they totally misread how Trump operates. And he just said, "Fine, I'm going to work with the people I got, and if that means there's some things we can't get done, we can't get them done. But it's Schumer's fault." The second thing is, were you at all struck when Chuck cried the other day that 4,000 Americans have been shot in Chicago? But Schumer didn't cry for them. Americans have been killed in Afghanistan and Iraq, but Schumer didn't cry for them. Why is it the only people Schumer can cry for are foreigners? Why don't Americans matter to him? I just thought it was very strange how emotional he got. I'd never seen him be emotional before. And, of course, Trump, who's known him for many years, said he thought it was all phony and not real and what have you. I don't know if it was real or not, but I thought it was very weird.
Well, Trump and I agree on the phony aspect of what Schumer did. I mean, it seemed to me like he was trying to conjure up the emotion for the camera, and so it doesn't. That's neither here nor there. But the perpetual war footing that the Democrats are on is a pure Alinskyite move, and I think you're right. The Democrats are walking ever so far out on the limb, Newt. And the farther out they go, I think the farther away from the ordinary, everyday American who just wants the economy to get better and wants the government to kind of represent their interests. And they don't want this constant caterwauling at the microphone. And I don't think it really, in the end, helps Democrats get elected. It might help them raise money, as we saw with the ACLU raising $26 million over the weekend, which is 6 times their annual budget. So, they might make money in the short term, but I don't think getting power is going to be the result of all this.
Well, I also think that you have to look at what's going on and assume that part of the reason Schumer can't negotiate and can't be reasonable is that the hard left has just gone crazy. And the person who's written the most sobering article on this is Dennis Prager, who last week wrote an article on what he called the Second American Civil War. And I think it's a very real danger. Not in the military sense of this.
Absolutely. Well, I think if they can create chaos and cause violence in the streets, I think they're going to do that too. That's the next move. Newt Gingrich, thank you so much. We'll check out your lectures. We'll link that up on our Facebook page and gingrichproductions.com. Don't go away.